Good evening, this is Halloween. This is the second half of your top stories tonight. The U.S. military conducted airstrikes in eastern Syria Friday, targeting sites used by Iranian-backed militia groups that were responsible for recent attacks against U.S. personnel in Iraq and Syria. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said the precision self-defense strikes were meant to establish deterrence against such attacks and disrupt the Iranian-backed militias. The strikes hit 2 locations in Syria. This came after a series of at least 20 attacks against U.S. bases and personnel in Iraq and Syria since mid-October. In response, Iran-backed groups in Iraq and Syria launched rocket and drone attacks against U.S. sites, though there were no casualties. President Biden authorized the strikes through self-defense and warned that Iran and its proxies needed to cease further attacks on U.S. forces. The Pentagon held Iran responsible for arming and directing the militia groups carrying out the attacks, while not directly linking Iran to the recent Hamas attacks on Israel. Officials raised concerns Iran and its proxies could escalate the broader conflict. The Pentagon announced it was deploying an additional 300 troops to the Middle East region, bringing the total additional deployments to 1,200 troops. This came amid a recent increase in attacks on U.S. bases in Iraq and Syria by Iranian-backed militia groups, with at least 27 attacks since mid-October, resulting in 21 minor injuries to U.S. troops. The new troops would support regional deterrence efforts and bolster force protection capabilities and would not be deployed to Israel. Rather, they would provide capabilities like explosive ordnance disposal and communication support. Last week, the Pentagon conducted airstrikes in Syria against weapons storage sites used by the militia groups in response to the base attacks. The attacks on U.S. forces were separate from the ongoing war between Israel and Hamas. Despite some groups warning of escalating attacks if Israel conducted a ground invasion. And ending your week on some more positive news, the FDA met to discuss the potential first gene therapy to be approved for widespread use. The disease it will potentially be treating is called sickle cell anemia, and the new gene therapy is called exa-cel by Vertex Pharmaceuticals. Sickle cell impacts around 100,000 people in the United States, primarily those with African ancestry, so it is not a rare disease. Exa-cel uses a new gene editing technology called CRISPR to modify patients' stem cells, which are blood cells that develop into other types of blood cells. The modification aims to reduce symptoms of sickle cell disease by increasing production of hemoglobin in red blood cells. Advisors discussed whether the FDA needs any additional studies before deciding to approve exa-cel. Their recommendation will help inform the FDA's final decision on whether to approve this potentially groundbreaking therapy. These are your top stories tonight. We hope everyone had a great October and is out there right now having a great time this Halloween. Have a great night from us at Volt News Network, and thank you for another month of news. Good night.